Every company in every country, in every industry, is going to go through some sort of maturity curve. Think of this as just like a product life cycle, digital maturity curve. The only reason that us as sellers are going through this digital maturity curve is because whether we like it or not, our customers are learning with or without us. They're using digital platforms to reach out to their peer-to-peer network, to do online due diligence. And as a social seller, my job is to meet them halfway along their journey and help them along this journey. So here's what's going to happen. You cannot stop. And what you can't debate with me is that if this is going to happen. What you can debate is when it might happen. But basically along this curve, here's what ends up happening. On the left-hand side, you see examples of customers of ours that have begun this transformation, and they began this transformation typically for one core reason. They need to generate more pipeline. And the ways that they've been generating pipeline are becoming more difficult. The phone and email, as your only mechanism of business development, becomes stagnant or actually becomes counterproductive. So you start looking for alternatives. What typically happens at stage one, you'll notice why I have an individual person mounted on this particular stage, is that the chief revenue officer, the chief marketing officer, you as a business owner are sitting in status quo, and you say to yourself, fine, the way that we sell today seems to work, but then there is some compelling event that happens. Either it's a trigger that happens either internally or externally, where either yourself as a solopreneur or you're the SVP of sales of a Fortune 500 company, you walk around the sales floor, or if you're a solopreneur, you kind of look at your own self and you say, okay, the way that I'm doing things today is clearly not working. Or there's a disparity between the way that each seller is selling. Some sellers know what LinkedIn is. Some are very proficient at driving pipeline through it. And some never been on it at all. So now you've got what's called random acts of digital. So at some point you take it upon yourself to then start looking at, okay, how do I change first my mindset, then give and acquire myself the skill set to be able to complement. This is the important piece. Great social sellers complement the phone and email and face-to-face and courier pigeon mail, snail mail. They do it all. But they look at it and they say, okay, I need to build a business case for why digital as part of my toolkit can enhance my selling skills. And at that point, that's when you start bringing on partners. If you're in a company that has multiple employees, now all of a sudden you think of how you scale this. And this is where a sales leader will partner with marketing, or marketing will partner with enablement. You'll start to realize that there is a trifecta of people you need internally to drive digital change management. To drive digital sales transformation, you need your VP of sales, your VP of marketing, and your VP of sales enablement or sales operations. We call those the three amigos. They need to come together and reverse engineer the business outcomes to the sales objectives and then down to the digital activities that are going to highly influence those particular sales activities, those sales objectives. The whole reason you're doing this is risk versus opportunity. You're doing this because you look at it and you say, okay, the way that I'm selling today might be stagnant, might be in decline, might be struggling building pipeline. And you do a quick Google search, and companies like Forrester and IDC and McKinsey have been doing research project after research project that shows this. If you split a company in half implement digital selling for 6 months straight, and half continue selling the way they've always sold, the digital sellers or social sellers will create 20% more pipeline in 6 months. And you're doing this, the whole reason you're on this journey is risk versus opportunity. And you say to yourself, I need to do this before this becomes standard operating procedures. See, right now, in most companies, in most industries, you might sit somewhere in early adopter innovator. If you're in technology or telecom, you're no longer early adopter innovator almost anywhere in the world. You're now in what's called early majority. Because whether you live in Americas, EMEA, MENA, LATAM, APJ, already, technology and telecom companies have already started digitizing their sellers. But you're trying to get there while it's still an opportunity before this becomes standard operating procedures and this is just a risk. So now how do you start pulling this through at a high level? First thing you have to do, whether you as the business owner or you as a VP of sales, or if you're at a larger company, your sales operations and sales enablement must benchmark the competencies of yourself and of your team. And you need to benchmark them against your competition and best in class. We have a methodology we use called FEED, which is finding, engaging, educating, and developing. Every social seller in the world, whether it's on a named account or a group of accounts, will learn to find, engage, educate, and develop. And you can do spot audits and assessments against those competencies to see if they know how to select the right accounts, socially surround them, that's called finding. If they know how to engage them with tools like video and LinkedIn Point Drive, if they know how to build multi-touch point sales plays and cadences, that's engage. Do they know how to educate and share content on a consistent basis using platforms like employee advocacy, that's educate, and do they know how to develop and grow a network around a customer base or a vertical? So you need to benchmark through audits and assessments, figure out where do I stack rank against my competition, and am I at risk versus opportunity? Once you know your deficiencies and your strengths, perfect. Now you need to get the three amigos in a room. You get the sales leaders, the marketing leaders, and enablement leaders. And if you are a small business, it's you, just like I own a small business, you own the accountability to building a plan. And that plan is reverse engineering your business plan, which is business outcomes, down all the way down to activities, because activities are the only thing that you can influence to highly, those are the only things you can control, to highly influence sales objectives. So you will build a plan of activities aligning to objectives, and then you develop and tailor a program that can teach skills. At the end of the day, the social selling isn't going to land on your lap. LinkedIn isn't going to teach itself. If you live in the DACH region, Zing isn't going to teach itself. If you live in China, WeChat won't teach itself. You're going to have to develop some sort of skill path or learning path that can teach these skills so that you can turn learning behavior into repeatable sales action. Then you have to deliver this, and there's a multitude of ways you can actually acquire the skills of social selling, whether it's through online video, through live coaching, through virtual coaching, through speaking with peer groups. There's a million ways you can learn this skill, but these skills, just like any other business development skill, have to be learned. You then figure out how you measure this, and the best part about digital selling is it's all measurable. You see, the difference between phone and up until recently, where you can actually log and track using technology, phone calls and emails, it was very difficult to determine, what is my activity yielding. With digital, whether I'm tweeting or leveraging Facebook or LinkedIn, I can actually track all those activities and correlate activity levels to sales objectives. So you need to measure this so you understand what is digital doing for my business, and then you need to reinforce these skills. This is change management at its core. You're taking a teammates, analog sellers who are used to driving to local offices face-to-face or picking up the phone and dialing 50 times a day. That is the skill set that they've acquired maybe over 5, 10, 20 years. You're now introducing an entirely different way of prospecting. This is not going to happen overnight, so you need to reinforce these skills. And if you're a business owner or a VP of sales, in your one-on-ones with your sellers, you're coaching towards this. You're taking the activities that you know are important, and you're sitting the teams down, and you're doing spot audits. And you're saying, okay, show me your top 5 accounts. Show me your activities in the last 5 accounts. Show me what you've done and engaging them on a storyboard on something that's going on in the market right now. How are you sharing best practices with them? And this is your opportunity as a coach to see in your one-on-ones if everything's being pulled through.